How are you doing on the appendices? Anybody got any kind of problems, questions, or issues? Because that, we got today and Wednesday and Monday next week.
I think A is the one that I'm just like, everything else, all the equations, everything is like so easy, but like,
Yeah,
if it's A, for me, it's just like, I'm still.
Can you give me an example of what, the sort of thing that's aggravating?
Just when it comes to, like when we're talking about supply and substitution and production, whenever we're, like equation like that.
That's a tough one. That's probably the toughest out of all. You got really 10 possibilities, right? 5 forces that shift supply, 5 forces that shift demand. As long as you can identify those in the question and know which curve is moving which direction, it's not too bad. But it's that first part.
Yeah, substitutes in production, like there's a few questions like that. I feel like every time I get it, I'm like, what do I do?
Okay. Substitutes in production. We're going to carve this into a stone and make it the 11th commandment. Okay? If we have 2 goods that are substitutes in production, here's the causation. When the price of one good rises, the supply of the other good decreases. I'm going to move that because I'm not sure I'm on the camera. Hang on. Substitutes in production. When the price of good A rises, the supply of good B, its substitute in production, falls. I'll reverse it that time. The arrows move in opposite directions.
Wasn't that the book and magazine?
Is that supposed to be an S?
Yeah,
Supply of A?
Uh-huh.
You bet P of A.
No, price.
The price
okay.
of
You said
A,
price.
supply
Okay,
of B.
my fault.
Price of one good affects the supply of another. Magazines and books is a good example. If magazines, we see their prices go up and we're a publisher, what do you want to produce?
Magazine.
Magazines. Where I come from, more money's still better than less. Right? So, therefore, we're going to produce less in the way of books. Us and all the other publishers. Now, this is the general rule, but there's 2 pictures to go with it that maybe will help. When we look at the market for A, here's the supply, and the price went up. So we go from point A to point B. You okay with that? How do we describe that?
Change in quantity supply.
An increase in quantity supply. Good. And it might give you the whole question, and this would be the only correct answer. There was an increase in the quantity supplied of A. And that's correct.
How would that affect the demand then?
None.
None?
What really happened, what made the price of A go up? It was an increase in the demand. But I've skipped that. I said, after that increase in demand, the price of A went up.
Okay.
But does that apply to the demand of the,
Of A.
yeah, the demand of
Magazines.
A, but for the producers?
Sure.
So their demand for magazines went up.
Perfect.
So the quantity that they're supplying is going to be a lot more so they can make more money. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, what happened over here with books? Here's the old supply of books.
The quantity supply decreases.
Not quantity supply.
Or quantity demand.
The supply.
Oh, the supply.
The supply decreases so that our equilibrium here goes from A to B. We're not making as many books. Nobody is. Fewer books available. They're a little hard to find. Price goes up. They're a little expensive. People don't buy as many. You go from A to B. So if I said substitutes in production, price of A goes up, true or false? Quantity supplied of B decreased. Quantity supplied of B decreased.
But if
Isn't it quantity
Here's what-
demand?
Yes, it's quantity demanded decreased. A decrease in quantity supplied would move you down in here. So you got to read these answers carefully. Yes, ma'am?
So if the price, is that the price for production or the price?
No, this is the price to the seller, price to the
Okay,
buyer.
well then if the price goes up for books and it goes up for magazines, then wouldn't it be interchangeable almost?
we don't want to confuse the terminology. Because here we're talking about the supply curve, which is the cost curve, staying constant. Here we're talking about a decrease in supply because we just don't want to produce them anymore.
Oh.
And if you mix the terms up, I think we did one the other day about gold. Did we do that?
Oh, yeah.
If the price of gold rises, then the demand for gold will fall. And when the demand for gold falls, then the price of gold will fall. What was wrong there?
Wasn't it circular?
This is circular. You see, when anytime the price of gold goes up, it's going back down again. If you believe that, Boost Breath, let me handle your investments for you. Where's the fallacy up here? When the price of gold goes up, the quantity demanded of gold decreases, period, click, all the rest is nonsense. And so if you confuse the terminology, you get into these circular statements.
So about that particular instance about gold, why would it be the quantity demanded instead of just the demand?
Price never shifts the curve. A change in price never makes a curve shift.
It only shifts the amount that you
Yeah, it only moves you up or down on a given curve. Price changes because some other curve shifted beforehand. What else? Appendix A. More issues, questions.
You never put like product A and B on the same graph, right? Which
Never.
probably confuse the hell out of
That's
me.
right. And if you get a question where you see that the supply of A is moving and the demand of A is moving, you draw two separate graphs. Because if you put it all on one graph, you won't understand it. Neither will I. X and Y are substitutes in production. When the price of X falls,
the supply of Y rises.
the supply of Y increases. The supply of Y goes the other direction. P of X falls, supply of Y increases. Okay so far? The next one, S2. Given that there's some demand curve out here, true or false? The demand for Y will decrease. The demand for Y will decrease.
Quantity.
The demand curve never moved. Demand didn't change. The quantity demanded decreased. You see what I'm saying?
You said for Y?
I said the demand for Y will decrease. No, it won't. It didn't move.
Quantity demanded.
Why would the quantity demanded for Y increase?
So that's moving at different points on the demand
Because
curve.
you're going from A to B with that decrease in supply. Sellers are selling
But we were
fewer
talking
of them.
about Y, right?
Yeah.
I thought it said supply increase.
You're right. I drew it backwards, didn't I? Thank you. You're right.
Read these carefully.
1, 2. B, A.
Dealio.
Okay? So, what happened to the demand?
And
The demand didn't change.
Demand didn't change. The quantity demanded increased. Okay? Okay so far? Price of Y fell. True or false?
True.
Went from A to B, that's a lower price. Sales of Y increased. True or false?
Increase, yes.
True.
Sales went from here to here, they increased.
Alright, that's what confused me. When you talk about sales, it's the quantity
Quantity.
that you've sold.
Yeah.
So is that in particular to supply or demand?
Well,
Or is it?
usually when I say sales, I'm talking about the equilibrium quantity that's being transacted.
Right. On just this, in particular to supply or in particular to demand? Or
In
is it
particular
both?
to equilibrium.
Equal, alright. Perfect.
But if you run into an exam question where that's not clear, let me know.
Okay.
Just walk up to me and say, well, I'm not sure I understand it. I'm not trying to confuse you there. I'll explain it.
Thank you.
I'll try.
So in this case, we're assuming that the quantity demanded is the quantity sold, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
says, a price floor at equilibrium is imposed in the market for Z. Subsequently, Z becomes very popular. What happens?
Nothing.
You sure?
Yeah, it's at equilibrium. There's no reason that you.
You'll find a new equilibrium price to match the amount supplied, the quantity demanded.
It's usually a good idea to draw these in case. But
I was just, what about, price is gonna go up because it's a price floor, it's not a price ceiling.
You're right. Here we are, equilibrium and a price floor. And then it says Z becomes popular. What does that mean? Demand increases. Equilibrium then wants to go from A to B. Can it do that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a price ceiling.
Good, it's a price floor. You can always go above the floor.
Okay.
So what happens is we go to a new price, higher,
Yeah.
greater volume of sales,
Equilibrium
Yeah.
price.
new equilibrium, and what about the price floor?
Stays the same, please.
Didn't have any effect on the market.
Okay,
Okay so far?
yeah.
Now, I ain't done yet though. Suppose the question continues, at the same time,
Incomes.
the technology used in the production of S, whatever good, sorry, Z, improves.
So supply will also increase.
So what will this last thing do again?
Increase the supply.
It will increase supply. So what do we know is going on? There's a change in demand because it's popular, and there's a change in supply because of that technology. Both curves moving,
To that.
two curves. So with respect to supply and that price floor, we're going to see an increase in supply, and the market's going to try to go from point C to point D. Can it do that?
Oh no.
What will happen?
It would go beneath the price floor.
The price will fall beneath the price floor. What will that create?
Surplus.
Got a 50-50 shot.
Shortage.
Floors only create surpluses.
Because the demand is weighing the
Ceilings.
supply.
Only create shortages. And only if they are above or below appropriate. When you try to go from C to D, you can't. You can't drop the price. So you have this amount quantity demanded, this amount quantity supplied, and you have a surplus. Everybody with me so far? Sir?
Why are you drawing the original demand curve when okay, I guess what I'm saying is the technology improves, does that happen after Z becomes popular?
At the same time.
Oh, okay, at the same time. it is.
That's why I want you to treat these as two totally separate incidents and look for what?
Similarities, right?
What do
What
they
they
have
both
in
do.
common?
Yeah.
What do they have in common? So when we go over here, we say, well, price goes up, quantity increases, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Over here, we see that
Price goes down.
there's a surplus. So how would we write the correct answer?
Quantity goes up, prices and wages.
You know?
Right.
What basically happens is you either reach a new equilibrium with price higher, quantity higher, or you reach a new equilibrium with a surplus,
And there's one other possible instance we have to draw a messy graph for a minute. Here's your price floor. Here's your equilibrium. What if we increase the demand and we have an increase in supply right there? What happened?
Equilibrium stays the same.
Demand
Price
supply.
stayed the same, the quantity increased.
So you're selling more, but at the same price.
You went from A to B. So what are the possible outcomes? Price up, quantity increase. Price unchanged, quantity increase. Or there could be a surplus.
So then in the real world situation, how would you know which one happens?
You don't. In the real world, you've got to figure out which curve is moving the furthest. The demand curve moves the furthest, you get the price higher.
And that's where like statistics comes in?
Yeah, That's, to me, that along with substitutes in production, those are the most difficult supply and demand questions. And the key is, take one thing at a time, make sure you understand it, and then go read the answers. And somewhere you'd find an answer that said, this could happen, or price might even stay unchanged. You go, oh, let's go back and look at that. Yeah, that could happen too. Go ahead.
I just want to like work through it. So the first one, it was if the price floor is at equilibrium, but as it becomes popular, the demand shift changes, so price and quantity demanded go up, right?
Yep. Price goes up to here, from here. Quantity goes out to here, from here.
Okay, and then when the technology quickly improves, that means that the cost of production decreases, so the supply increases, right?
Right.
So when the supply increases, that graph is just completely confusing me.
Well, supply increased, but
yeah.
the price can't go any lower.
Oh, because of the price floor, so,
So you're stuck with a surplus.
because, wait, why is it a surplus? Because,
See if this helps. This supply curve no longer exists.
yeah,
So now you have this price with this demand and this supply. So we read at this price to the demand curve and down. That's how many people want to buy.
okay,
At this price, we read to the supply curve and down. This is how much sellers want to sell.
okay. So the sellers want to sell more than the buyers want to buy,
Exactly.
because they don't want to buy more at the same price?
Yeah. Well, the buyers are still ready to buy the same amount,
Oh,
but the sellers now are producing a lot more because it's cheaper to produce.
but they don't need to buy more.
But the buyers aren't going to buy anymore unless the price comes down, and it can't come down.
Gotcha,
Okay?
okay.
All right.
Can you do another weird one like that?
Let's see. X and Y are substitutes in production. The price of X falls. At the same time. Y is proven to cause terminal ugliness. What happens in the market for Y?
So, price can't cause shifts in the actual curves, right?
Not of the same good.
Oh.
Go back to your rule for substitutes in production.
Supply, Y will
Supply,
increase,
yeah.
and then Y
But the demand for Y
Change of-
decreases.
expectations, so demand would go down.
Price of X falls. What happens?
Supply of Y.
Increases.
Supply of Y increases. So we know that's one graph. Supply of Y is going to go from S1 to S2. We also know that Y makes you ugly. What will that affect?
The demand,
Why?
because if it makes you ugly, people don't want it.
Expectations.
Expectations, tastes and preferences, number of buyers, all of them speak to demand. What will happen to the demand?
The demand will shift.
Which way?
Left.
Decrease to the left. Demand 1, demand 2. Well, let's throw ourselves a supply curve in here for grins and demand curve in here for grins. So we're going to go from A to B, or we're going to go from C to D. Everybody okay with that?
So in the first graph, price decreases and quantity increases,
Good.
right?
In the first instance, price decreases, quantity increases.
And in the second graph, price decreases and quantity decreases.
Price decreases, quantity decreases.
So in the end, price decreases and quantity is ambiguous, right?
Good. Put them together. Price decreases, quantity is ambiguous. I think there's no substitute for going through those appendices and doing those questions 3, 4, 5 times each. I think if you were truly wanting to challenge yourself and embed it, you would get with 4 or 5 other people. You would say, you take the first 5, you take the next 5, I'll take the next 5, you take the last 5, and take your 5 questions and change one word in there so it's a different question. Type them up and let's trade them and practice on them. That way you're not looking at the same question every time. And so you better get different answers. And the more you do that, and the second thing I would do is I would get with some classmates and I would get in a room with a board. You got them over in the library? Get yourself a board and say, okay, question number 2, you're up. And you stand up and explain it. There's something called the moment of truth, when you have to stand up in front of people and explain what's going on. It will make you focus. It may make you do other things too, but it'll make you focus. Okay? Let's do some more of this next time. You bring me some of your questions. I'll see if I can't find a few more to challenge you with.